Let's go, Rider Nation.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Get your feeling now. Get 'em high, get 'em low. 'Cause we're dealing now. Everybody's giving it all they got. 'Cause we're ready.
This is the Piffles Podcast, your Saskatchewan Roughriders fan podcast. Thanks for so much for joining us this week. We have, for the first time this year, a game to talk about.
What?
On this episode?
What?
Steve has no idea.
Yay!
Steve has no idea.
We made it.
This is episode 316. And
What?
Steve, finish this for us. Piffles 316 says...
I just whooped your. No.
We didn't whip anything.
No.
Look at us. We haven't whipped anything.
No.
It's been a long time since we opened up cans of whoop ass. That's for sure.
No. I should have been more prepared with my wrestling episode or anecdotes, but here we are.
I don't even know where to go from here. We've kind of just ruined this right off the bat, which you should be used to after 315 previous episodes of the Piffles podcast. We are your Saskatchewan Roughriders fan podcast. Thanks for listening in wherever you get your podcasts, watching on SaskTel Max TV on demand or on YouTube. Piffles podcast, of course, is brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sask Drive in Regina. Of course, as always, you got me. I'm your host, Alex.
I'm Steve.
And I'm just praying for the continuous health of our offensive linemen, especially the uncrowned mule, Logan Ferland.
This team, this organization right now is cursed on the offensive line. We're going to talk about this right away here. And there's one person who's at fault, and I'm going to put that blame out there sarcastically in just a moment here. Piffles Podcast also happy to be sponsored by Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty, Churchill Brewing Company, District 306, Regina's Tactical Laser Tag Experience, and Bigfoot Vodka. Thanks to them for making everything possible here on this show. 1 week into training camp, and we're already down 2 offensive linemen. Let's get to the opening kickoff. So, the good news or the bad news?
There's good news.
The good news is that they've stockpiled enough Canadian talent around the roster where it's not imperative the Riders have 3 Canadians on the offensive line, because right now at this rate, I'm not sure if 3 Canadians are going to be on the roster on the offensive line by the time training camp's done. Sean McEwen was the first one, big star signing at center. Got hurt, out a while is what we're told. Corey May said that on Saturday at the Green and White Day, the fan day in Saskatoon. Out a while. Okay, we can make things work. Philippe Gagnon's there. Logan Ferland, Zach Fry gets a bump up maybe. Okay, well, we just found out that Philippe Gagnon is going to be out for a little bit as well. We don't know how long. His arm is in a sling, though, which is not good news. So, what the hell is going on here with this offensive line? And it's not just this year. You look what happened last year, starting 13 different offensive linemen. And this year, we're already down 2 after a week of training camp. What's going on?
See, I think we praised Edwin Harrison too much. And now the universe has said, oh, yeah, watch this. So this is where we're at. Like, the good news is they do have that depth, and we're going to get to it in a bit. Noah Zer pulled the reverse Scott Flory, so we're good that way. But woof, like, it's a good thing Daniel Johnson's coming up. It's a good thing Zach Fry's still around. It's a good thing Logan Ferland is a human Swiss Army knife on that offensive line. He gives us some flexibility. Yes, they've been trying Fry there, and they were using Gagnon there, but you guarantee you they were going to pull the ripcord to move Furlan back to center if that wasn't working. So we do still have flexibility, just not the Canadian flexibility that we thought we were going to have going into the season.
I don't know what kind of ritual needs to happen at uh, uh, training camp in Saskatoon for this to end, because this has been an ongoing situation for years now. It seems like we run through injuries at camp like bread. It's just nonstop. And to see it, the problem we've always had is it always collapses around one position. You know, we've seen it at receiver, then we've seen it at offensive line last year, and now offensive line this year. It starts to get old. You keep the rest of them in a bubble. Pray to God the depth that we've stockpiled is as quality as we think it is, and keep Edwin Harrison on payroll until the end of time. That's really all it comes down to.
So what you're saying is, if we're cursed, someone drank Joe Boo's rum.
Yes.
Whatever Edwin Harrison got as a raise to come back this year, he's already earning it, and he should probably get another contract extension right away if he works the same kind of magic that he did last year. So, like I said, there's one person to blame for all this. And let me take you back a few years, back to 2018. We had guys like Dakota Shepley, Brendan Labatt. Before that, the offensive line was loaded all the time. We had no problems with the offensive line. Ever since Jeremy O'Day took over as GM, this offensive line has been a disaster. Now, I'm joking about that. It's not Jeremy O'Day's fault. These are just freak things going on, but something's up. Like it's just weird. And whether it's guys retiring like Matlin Riley, free agent signings not panning out like Evan Johnson and Peter Godber like over the last couple of years, not being able to find a left tackle. We finally get a left tackle. He leaves. He goes to the NFL. Obviously, good for him. That's good scouting by Jeremy O'Day and being able to bring in talent like that. Luckily, with Trevor Reed, we'll talk left tackle here. Okay, Trevor Reed's gone. Well, Trayvon Tate can kind of step in. That's the assumption that he's going to be with the ones. He's going to be the guy. But there seems to be decent depth behind him as well with Brendan Kemp and other guys with some experience. So that's good. Jamarcus Hardrick, big signing last year. Hurt. Cool. Luckily, he's back this year. Fingers crossed on that one. Knock on wood, Logan Furlan. Nothing's happened to him. God forbid anything ever happens to Logan Furlan. But everything else, it doesn't seem to matter what they're doing, whether it's guys they're bringing in, whether it's guys they're drafting. It's just not panning out. And everything looks good on paper. It really does. And I'm not serious by saying that it's Jeremy O'Day's fault. It's weird that the offensive lineman, who is now the GM, is having issues with the offensive line.
Well, going into last season, I even made the joke is the only way Jeremy O'Day would recognize an offensive lineman is by looking in the mirror, because he was having issues finding guys. And now he turns it around, and by doing that, apparently he did the old monkey paw, I guess. We're making a lot of Simpsons references today.
This is supposed to be a wrestling episode.
Yeah, he's like, wished on the monkey paw to find offensive lineman. He found him. Problem is they all get hurt. So I don't know what you do. It's unfortunate, but like I said, the good news is we got one hell of a coach, and we still have some depth to back that up.
Well, and the nice thing about the offensive line is that, and especially with Jeremy O'Day being the GM, is O'Day has acquired enough Canadian talent everywhere on the roster. He's not just putting it all in one position. There's good talent everywhere, where if we needed to start a linebacker, we can do that to flip the ratio. If we need to start 2 Canadian defensive backs, which sure seems like it's going to be the plan, we're going to do that. We're going to start 3 Canadian receivers. We could probably start a defensive lineman if we needed to. So there's enough depth on this team where they can go with 3 American offensive linemen. So that's probably what they're going to do. So at left tackle, you're going to have Trayvon Tate, an American. Right tackle, Jamarcus Hardrick, American. Left guard, looks like Jacob Brammer is getting a lot of the work with the ones at training camp, American. And normally I'm not big on putting an American guard in there, just with the ratio. But if he is significantly better than Daniel Johnson, better than, Zach Fry, potentially better than Eric Anderson, everyone else, Noah Zur, then you have to do it. So there is enough talent on this team elsewhere to kind of make up for this, at least in the ratio. And of course, you have Logan Ferland, who's probably going to be at right guard, and Zach Fry's taking a lot of snaps at center. So probably have Fry and Ferland. I mean, you can probably flip those two if you need to and put Ferland at center. But it's, I don't want to say it's the end of the world, but it's not the end of the world. Like, they do have guys there. It's just Edwin Harrison's going to be making good again this year.
But here's the thing: is though, you kind of logistically want Brammer in that position, because if you think about it, the guys that are behind him right now until they brought Zur back and they just cut the guy are Daniel Johnson and Eric Anderson, who are basically pure rookies anyway. Yes, Johnson was on the PR, but you would hope that Brammer has, well, he does. He has more live fire experience, so he should be your default go-to in this situation.
And I also look at it, this team is in win now mode. If you have to flip the ratio to do it, you do it. If this was not a rebuilding year, a retooling year, whatever you want to call it in the CFL, if you weren't expected to be that top contender, then I can see them sticking with the 3 Canadians and maybe giving one of the younger guys a shot. But one of them will probably be the 6th man, at least to start the year, with McEwen probably starting on the 6-game list. Not really sure about Gagnon yet, but they've already put him on the injured list, so now his number doesn't count towards the training camp roster number, and they can bring in another guy if they needed to. But it's just, we're 9 days into training camp. There's a game this upcoming week, and we're already down the two guys that they signed in the offseason to upgrade the offensive line. So it's just, it sucks right now. It sucks.
You'd think coming out of the first week and a half of camp, you think only having 2 injuries would be an absolute win. You're seeing other teams, bunch of guys on the sidelines. We just happen to have our two prized free agents in Gagnon and Sean McEwen as the 2 guys that go down. It is literal worst case scenario, Logan Ferland aside.
I want to know how many people are like scouting the planes from Auburn to Regina right now, trying to figure out if we're going to airlift another offensive lineman in.
Well, who else is there? There's Braden Knoll is there, and I had the roster in front of me. Where did it go? Yeah, that's it for other Canadians on this team right now. So it's not slim pickings, but it's a lot of inexperience behind Logan Ferland and Zach Fry, at least for the Canadians. So I wonder if they're going to have another guy on speed dial, maybe a guy like Evan Johnson, who's currently not on a team.
Well, I wouldn't be shocked to see after the final cuts if there's a surprise or a good veteran presence out there that gets cut. Maybe they phone him up, see what his asking price is, because they could definitely use some experience if this is what we're going to be for a foreseeable down the line with this much inexperience at those positions.
And the utmost importance this year is keeping Trevor Harris healthy. So whatever they have to do in that O-line to make happen, and that if that means starting an extra American on the O-line, then so be it. It's just, you got to keep Harris healthy and shift some guys around elsewhere if you need to. But outside of that, on the training camp note, there really isn't much to say. There's not a lot of reports coming out. The guys look good. The offense looked great. The defense looked great. Well, how can both look great if they're going up against one another?
It's a tie. Everything's a tie.
I guess so.
We are not in Ottawa. There are no ties.
But I'm just excited that we're going to see this team play on Saturday. So I'm really excited to see just the energy that they'll bring. And we'll talk about that game in a little bit towards back half of the show here. But since the last time we were here doing the show, there was roster news. Noah Zur was released, subsequently brought back in with all these injuries here. They did bring in another kicker with Brian Garrity being brought in. So there is competition back for Brett Lothar.
Nothing that says competition like bringing a guy halfway into training camp going, okay, kid, let's see what you got.
Just kick it a bunch so he doesn't wear his leg out.
Exactly.
But the first round of training camp cuts came in last week. We knew it was coming in the day after we did our show. So that was Noah Zur, but he's back. The other name that was a bit surprising was the running back, Kalen LeBourne. Just because he was Armstead's replacement in Ottawa, thought maybe he'd have the inside track to get in that backup running back spot here, but I guess not. Looks like Mario Anderson and Trent Penix are looking better than he was. So
I still think the biggest aspect in that one is how much they're going to rely on Thomas Bergeron-Hudon, who's going to be playing special teams anyway. That second American running back is probably going to be a healthy scratch most of the season anyway.
Other cuts were receiver Ty James, who, of course, as I said, was hearing he was having a good camp. The Riders, he wasn't. Defensive backs Leon Jones and Nicario Harper. Defensive lineman Justin Jefferson, but I think that was just getting him ready for the Olympics. Justin Jefferson.
Not that one.
Punter Joe Couch and Canadian running back, fullback Nathan Gerard Langlois. So those were the roster releases last week. And then just roster shuffling. Julius Below, the offensive lineman, was put on the suspended list. He was the guy that was kind of in that little fight.
He was in the scrum with Justin Jefferson, and Jefferson got cut. And I think Mace even said it flat out, is if you're going to do that, you don't belong here. So that tells you the factor that Mace has going into this season. They're not going to put up with that after play shenanigans. So it's good to see, actually.
Interesting, though, that Bulow got put on the suspended list while Jefferson was outright cut. That makes me think perhaps they do see a ton of potential or some potential in Bulow and want to kind of keep him just in case. But they outright cut the other in Justin Jefferson.
Bulow's also a offensive lineman, and they need those guys in spades right now.
Yeah. No, you're basically cut, but you can't go sign with anybody else.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's
he's in a worse spot than Jefferson is.
Yeah, kind of. Just sitting there in purgatory. And then Justin and Jordan Herdman-Reed were put on the suspended list, but they were brought back. So that was just a transactional thing. And then Jamarcus Bradley, receiver, moved to the retired list. He was the guy that was put on the suspended list, came into camp, and then subsequently retired. So is he going to show up on Remember That Guy? Does he count?
I love the fact that he showed up to Saskatoon and went, you know what? Deuces.
I'm good.
Good.
In fairness, I have a very similar response when it comes to Saskatoon.
See,
every time he goes
for
to
me,
the
it would be
Hilltop game.
Winnipeg. Landing in Winnipeg, I'd be like, yeah, when's the next flight home?
Well, there's the rider update. We'll look at that preseason game against Winnipeg going forward. But there's a really good question, and this is it's an NFL, CFL thing, and I wanted to bring it up here in the opening kickoff. The NFL is going to allow their players to participate in the 2028 Olympics in flag football. So each team could have a maximum of one player go. And Jamie Nye brought this up on Twitter, or X, sorry. Should the CFL pause their season in 2028 to allow players to go to the Olympics for flag football? And I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that.
For the 2028 year especially, absolutely. When you have the entire world is going to be watching this flag football event. People love the new events and people love football. It's a chance for the CFL to market their legitimate stars to the rest of the world, literally on the world stage. They're talking about making this league, CFL 2.0. Maybe that died with Randy's retirement, who knows? But that was the big thing, was making this a global league. There's no better way to do it than let those guys go and play for their country south of the border for the Olympics.
I have to laugh. Internationally, the high school teams, like the Canadian, like SAS Selects, and the Canadian teams usually throttle the Americans for some reason, and I don't know why that is. It's just the way it works out when the Saskatchewan traveling teams go down to the States and play those international games. I'm torn on this. The CFL as a league needs butts and seats. And yes, there would be some good publicity, but also what you're doing is, and maybe this is the little man syndrome, but you throw, let's say, Nathan Rourke for Team Canada, and he lays an egg or he gets picked off by whatever NFL DB is playing for the United States at that point. Like, is that a good look? It's only good if they compete. And if you shut down your season just to watch Team Canada get embarrassed, no matter, is that actually good? Or are you giving because all you're taking is Canadians. It's not like the Americans from the CFL teams are going to make.
Probably not. You'll
Not
get
gonna make that
more of
roster.
the NFL guys, yeah.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, your international players might make it as well. Like your Baldonados will be on like Team Italy, maybe. But that's a big guy to play flag football. But
will
you know what I
Team
mean.
Australia have 7 punters on their team all just running
You would
around?
hope so. You would hope so. But so I'm torn on it. I think it'd be good for the league. Yes, like don't get me wrong. If Canada medals, it'd be a huge story, and that'd be a great source of national pride, especially considering the Olympics are in LA that year. So it would be awesome, but I also have my doubts that the owners are also going to want to shut down the season for a week, 2 weeks in the middle of the season in prime time, or even shorten the season because they get paid by butts and seats, not by how well Team Canada does at the Olympics.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with Greg on this one, just in the sense that I'm not big fan of pausing the season. Obviously, that's exactly what they would do. But if you have the rules in place, like each team can only send one guy or whatever it is, or up to one guy, do you really need to pause the season to do that? Now, I get it. People aren't going to be tuning into, Friday Night Football on TSN when the Olympics are going on and it's Canada versus US. So scheduling it conflicts there, right? So you don't want to go up against the Olympics in that sense. But are you going to be able to move the season up 2 weeks with where the drafts are? Because you're going to have to see if the NFL is going to want to move their draft up so you can move your draft up. So I think it's a trickle effect in the scheduling process. It's all well and nice to say, yeah, let's move the season up 2 weeks, but we're starting training camps at the end of April before the NFL has their draft. Well, how many of these guys or Americans are going to want to sign with the team in the hopes that they are going to get drafted or signed as an undrafted free agent right after the draft, right? So it's just, to me, it's a big scheduling conflict. And obviously you want to see the guys go there, but if each team can only lose like one guy, maybe two, like maybe there's rules on it, one offense, one defense kind of thing. Okay, so we're without Sam Emilus for a couple games. Might not be the end of the world.
But you say that and you miss the playoffs by a game where you lose by a field goal because you couldn't get a touchdown in. Like, people remember that stuff.
But on the flip side, if you look at it, the other team you're going up against is going to be missing that one guy too, most likely. If teams can only send one guy, you're going to get 9 guys from across the league likely their best Canadians. So using that as an excuse is a little questionable to me. You're all up against the same playing field. To me, the easiest solution to that is just drop the ratio by 1 for a 2-week period. Allow teams to fill that space left by the Canadian that's gone to the Olympics with whomever they see fit.
Now you're getting into a players association thing. Are they going to want that to happen? So like, it's all well and good to like it's all well and good to want this to happen. And I think we all want to see the best players at the Olympics, Team USA, Team Canada, whatever. Right. But it goes so much deeper than just saying, yeah, we're going to pause. Like there's so many more variables, and I'm really interested to see how that all kind of plays out and what's actually going to happen here.
And if we're being honest with the growth of football and the players in the NFL, there's more Canadians than ever in the NFL. There's no guarantee there's going to be a lot of spots open for CFL players.
That's true.
There'll be some, but you look every year, there's more and more Canadians strapped to the NFL. There's more and more Canadians playing in the NFL. So by 2028, who knows how many Canadians are actually going to need or out of the CFL.
Interesting topic. I'm looking forward to seeing guys like Justin Jefferson that are just elusive. See if they can gritty around with the little flags hanging out and nobody catching them. Well, that's the opening kickoff presented by Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Agenda Realty. Let's get to Remember That Guy, sponsored by District 306, Regina's tactical laser tag experience. Greg, you're going to give us some hints to a guy who was on the Riders at one point or more points in his career. And we're going to see if we can guess who the guy is. So, Greg, let's remember that guy.
I've got 6 hints. It was 6 hints. Technically, I have 7, but if I tell you the 7th one, you guys are going to get it right away. So we're going to try to get it in 6. If not, I will give you 7, and we'll go from there. All right. This gentleman is a former I'm going to tell you something. I almost did Dennis Guile, and I'm like, no, because it's going to ruin it, because he's going to guess Dennis Guile right off the hop. So I haven't looked up Dennis Guile. I know everything about Dennis Guile right now.
Don't trust me, so do I.
We will see one day when that joke becomes old. We will figure that out. All right. Former TCU Horned Frog. While at TCU, he set a single season kick return average record of 34.1 yards. Played in Scotland, Montreal, Edmonton, but retired as a Rough Rider. Had a brother in the CFL. Grey Cup champion, 4-time CFL West All-Star, 1-time CFL All-Star. CFL stats, 8 interceptions, 28 sacks, 563 combined tackles, and 9 fumble recoveries.
Is it Diamond Ferry?
No.
Yeah. Oh, he wouldn't have been a kick return guy.
Yeah, the hint on Diamond Ferry would be something about eating a sandwich while talking to Jamie Nye. The way that you worded the one thing, so he retired as a rider, but he only played for who? Who did he play for?
He played in Scotland, Montreal, Edmonton, and retired as a Rough Rider.
Oh, is it Mo Price?
It is not.
No, it'd be wrong. Yeah, no.
I think I need the 7th one.
Yeah.
Apparently, he looked the best in the black jerseys, but I refuse to admit that.
Oh, Reggie Hunt?
Yes.
See, I was thinking when you said played here,
yeah,
retired as a rider. Okay, he didn't actually play here.
No, he played he did. He played as a rider, but he came back.
I was paying
too much to retire as a rider.
How you worded it.
Yep.
I didn't know Reggie Hunt was a kick returner, though.
Yeah. Neither did I until I looked this up. I was like, he was what a hell of a kick returner. Yeah, and in Scotland, he actually, for the Claymores, he was a kick returner.
Friend of the show, Reggie Hunt from years ago. We should get him back on the show, see what he's up to nowadays. And yeah, I guess, yeah, his brother had one hell of a, what was it, Aaron Hunt,
Yeah.
with the
Defensive
BC
line with
Lions.
the Lions, yeah.
Yeah, he had a couple unreal years, defensive lineman. Yeah, Reggie Hunt, that picture that you're talking about in the black jersey with the visor. Oh my, that is why the black jerseys need to be brought back. That's why I'm fine with the obsidian jerseys.
That's why you let them die. You will never get better than that picture.
That's a
So why
tough
try
look,
again?
man.
And this is why I knew the minute I said that you guys were both going to get it. And you got it
Yep.
immediately.
Reggie Hunt, man. We were talking about Alex Smith with going into the Plaza of Honor when the class was announced a couple weeks ago. The linebackers that the Riders had, including Reggie Hunt, like, man, he was freaking so good. He was the heart and soul of that defense for so many years.
In some bad years.
And some very bad years, yes.
But he was
so very good in those bad years.
And that was why it was so good that when they got the Grey Cup in 2007, like, he deserved that because he was here through some bad years.
See, I thought this week you'd go with somebody who is more of just like a preseason guy than anything. Just trying to get into your brain here a little bit. And
don't try that. That's a scary
don't
place.
Do that.
I don't like being there.
Yeah, once I got in there, I was like, whoa, nope.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, like, where's Greg going to go with this? Okay, maybe preseason, since we have a preseason game this week. Yeah, it'll be a preseason star.
And don't get me wrong, that originally was the plan, but I told you before we came on the air how nightmarish my last couple of days have been at work. So this was, hey, who's a popular player that these guys might get? That's exactly what I went for.
See, and I'm surprised you went with somebody with the presence, the well-knownness of Reggie Hunt.
They all can't be Terrence Nuns.
I mean, if I keep guessing them, they sure can be.
This is why I said it's a who's who and a who's that of Rider Nation.
That's fair. You know, I actually have Diamond Ferry on the list of potentials here as well, too, that we mentioned him. There's a bunch of guys on this 2007 team with Reggie Hunt here that I actually have on this list, and I'm surprised you haven't gotten to a few of them. So
we've only done it for, 2 months now? So
yeah, we've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 of them.
Oh, wow.
That's okay. I was like, did I do Reggie Hunt already once? And I'm like, I couldn't remember if I did or not.
Jesus. If we're 2 months in and you're already wondering if you've done them, we're in trouble.
Because I have these things set aside, and I just couldn't remember if I didn't check them off or not.
Well, there's Remember That Guy, presented by District 306. Let's get to our Churchill Brewing Company odds and end zones. Stuff around the league. We got some new rules to talk about. Some really interesting ones here. The league is cracking down on hits on a defenseless receiver at or below the knees. It's going to be a 15-yard penalty unless the receiver is jumping. Greg, you don't seem to like this one.
No, I do. I think it makes sense. It's going to be a nightmare at the beginning of the season because there's going to be a lot of, I don't say ticky-tack calls, but there's going to be a lot of officials trying to figure out the line this is going to have to be, and there's going to be a lot of replays of tackles of so-called low hits. Think the Brown hit on Chris Strevler and how many times we had to relive that one. This is going to be real Zapruder footage going into this one. So I'm all for player safety, but this is going to be really hard to grapple with, I think.
I don't want to agree with Greg, but I basically agree with everything he just said. It's going to be a tough rule to get the grasp on, especially for guys who've been playing in the CFL for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. to suddenly change their tackling style to adhere to the newer rules might be interesting. I think you're going to see a little bit of a penalty fest in training camp until they figure it out, and then they will. And player safety rules above all else.
And I get hitting a guy in the tackle box, but football is so fast. And all it takes is 1 degree being off, and then it's flag fest.
A lot of the times with something like this, I just wish they'd let common sense prevail. And I know going back to the Miles Brown thing, like those were like when you're being tackled into somebody or getting blocked into a quarterback's legs, there's only so much you can do. Use some common sense here. But I guess that's too much of a gray area. And the league actually did clear up some gray area in the next one. Slapping now gets you ejected. So before you could hit with an open palm and just get a penalty, closed fist got you ejected. Now slapping gets you ejected. So Logan Ferland, watch out, because he likes to get in there and slap in the face. Wasn't the game in the season opener in Edmonton last year?
It was the first game of the season. I was like, that's very non-Ferlandy. But here's my question. So we're hands to the head, hands to the face, officially out. What about a stiff arm now? Is it going to be? Are we going to get in trouble? Is that going to be a slap if you do it too hard?
Yeah, if you don't go like that, if you just go with your arm already out, maybe.
Oh, so I'm just going to run like this with my arms out. If you run into my arms, it's your fault. Yeah, you just
yeah. Seems to be the way it's going to be.
Well, and like I said, I am all for player safety, and yes, I understand this, but at some point we're putting bubble wrap on football. Then switch it to flag. If it's an Olympic sport now, let's just make it flag, because this is the way we're going. And I'm not one of those Neanderthals that hit hard and break legs. No, I want good, clean football. But at this point, you're just going to make every player question what they're doing, and that's how people get hurt, because they're thinking, not playing, not reacting in real time.
But I don't think this particular rule change is really a player safety thing.
No,
it's really adding to a rule that was already there to clear up a gray area that had the same intent. Slapping, punching, it's all the same when you're in that post-whistle scrum. You're clearly taking a shot at a guy after the whistle. Call it the same. I have zero issues with this rule change, and I don't think it'll be as big of an issue or tough to call as the previous one.
Oh no, and I agree. I agree on this situation. Mine was more of a broad criticism of what is happening right now. It's getting very obviously. If you take a swing at somebody, you should be gone. Andrew Harris from the Banjo Bowl a few years ago.
That's Coach Andrew Harris to you.
Oh yeah, no, still don't like the guy.
Will you like him if we get a picture of him holding the Grey Cup in Ryder Green in Winnipeg's home locker room?
Only if I get to paste my picture over the top of his face.
Sure.
I mean, you are the graphics designer guy. You can probably do that.
I probably could.
Couple other things. Grade 2 roughing the passer, which is the 25-yarder, now includes blows delivered with the crown of the helmet to the head or the neck of the passer and hits to the knee or below, as long as the defender has a clear view of contact and there are no mitigating circumstances.
So this is the Miles Brown rule.
Exactly.
This is the Miles Brown rule.
That was the first thing I thought of. I'm like, what are these mitigating circumstances? Oh, he's being tackled into the quarterback. Okay.
So thanks 1 year too late, CFL.
Yeah. This is one I like, though. Major penalties in the red zone are no longer half the distance to the goal line. It is the full distance. So if you're at the 15-yard line, you get a pass interference at the 6-yard line. It's no longer just going to be half the distance. It's going to be the full way. Or if it's a major penalty in the end zone, ball's going to be placed at the 1-yard line.
Yeah, that
So-
that roughing the passer in the red zone is going to be a big change for some guys, because that's what you're looking at. Those pass interferences in the end zone, those automatically go to the one anyway. But yeah, that extra hit on a quarterback when you're already close to the line, at that point, who cares? Okay, yeah. So they move up to the 10, big deal. I think this is going to actually change a lot of things, because now you're giving them the ball in the one, and unless you're the Toronto Argonauts, you should score from there.
This was a must do. This was one of those it's about damn time type rule changes. People have been complaining about the half the distance of the goal rule as long as I've been a football fan. I I feel like I grew up with that. So it's the right call. It's a 15-yard penalty at your own one. It should be a 15-yard penalty at their 10-yard line too. Well, 9-yard penalty, I suppose. But there's no reason why it should be half the distance.
Yep. So I like this one, and that'll kind of increase scoring, which is what leagues always want to go for. Probably see a few more touchdowns instead of field goals resulting out of this. Not a lot, but a couple here or there. So
that works in reverse, though. So if you're on offense in your own red zone, so in the shadow of your own goalpost, it's no longer half the distance back. It's going to be all the way back to the one, right?
Yep.
Nice. Interesting.
yeah. Matt Dunigan out at TSN. Not going to be on the panel or in the broadcast booth this year. What was your first thoughts when you saw that news come out? I think it was 3 Down Nation posted that.
Yeah, they were. End of an era. Like, the only time he hasn't been on that panel, as long as I've been a fan of CFL and TSN, was that very great year he coached the Stampeders.
2004. Yeah. He started with TSN in 1999 after he retired, and then coached the Stamps in 04, and he's been a fixture there for the last 25 years.
And all of the people to get rid of, he was the choice. Like, I don't get it. That said, I understand he's been there forever, and they probably want some young blood like you got. Henoch on there more. You got Davis Sanchez. Like,
That's who they should
sure. Yeah. Your lips to God's ears, sir. Your lips to God's ears. But yeah, I guess they're just looking at, like, we don't have a room for everybody, and I'm certain they're already planning for Bo Levi Mitchell's eventual retirement. They're going to want a quarterback spot, and he's probably going to get it. But even not to have him in the booth, like, he was actually a very good color commentator.
I liked him. I know he was kind of polarizing for a lot of people, that they just didn't like him because he was exuberant, and sometimes you had no idea what the hell he was talking about. And that could have been the CTE talking, all the concussions from his career. But he was so much fun. He brought fun, and he was his authentic self. And ultimately, that's what I want from a panel. That's what I want from color commentators and analysts. Just be yourself. Show your character, because a lot of it's forced and it's not entertaining that way. And that's one of my biggest gripes about the TSN panel, is a lot of it seems forced and it's not fun. And Matt Dunigan,
they smash watermelons.
Yeah. But Matt Dunigan was fun to me, and I liked it. It was something a little bit different, and the guy still clearly knows his stuff. And when you see him out at Grey Cup, he's still out throwing the ball around with kids and talking to people and sharing stories. Like, he's still very much, ingrained in the fabric of the current CFL. So there's something to this story that we don't know, obviously, whether he wanted to step away and spend more time with family, or if it was TSN just being like, yeah, you're gone. You've been here for too long. Time to cut ties. But there's got to be something else here.
It's always interesting to me. You mentioned it, that Matt Dunigan, people criticized him because he was exuberant, he was passionate, he showed that energy. And yet in the same sense, you watch a Dustin Nielsen play-by-play, and it's exactly the same. He's over the top, he's exuberant, and his calls get lauded. People love it. And I've never understood how one can get criticized for the same action as the other. To me, the only way this move makes sense is if it was Matt Dunigan's decision. Because if this was a move by TSN or the CFL on TSN, it's questionable at best. He brought realism and honesty to that panel. He was the only one that I really listened to and thought, yeah, I'm enjoying this. The rest of it, like you said, just seems forced. It seems scripted. And it's just not, I mean, I love the CFL, but I turn off the TV at halftime. I have no desire to watch that anymore.
Just do away with straight fire. That's all. One other thing here. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't say it right. One other thing here before we look at the Riders game against Winnipeg. CFL Fans Fight Cancer. We've always been a big part of this initiative around the CFL around the country. There's merch for it now. Go to CFLfansfightcancer.ca. You can get an order in until mid-June. Orders will ship out, I think, in July, beginning of July. Yeah. So get your order in now for CFL Fans Fight Cancer merch. We'll throw up a link on our socials, and you can go there. But for the first time in 2025, the Riders are taking the field, and we're going to talk about it. Riders at Bombers for the first of 6 times this season. I know it's only 5, but it will be 6 if you include the postseason. Unless you guys have a bold CFL prediction like I did last year of the Bombers not making the...
I think we're all on the Bombers not making the playoffs this year, right?
No, they'll make it.
Nope.
I have something a little bit different for my bold predictions this year. We'll do that, I think, next week maybe, or the week after. We'll save those. But Riders Bombers this Saturday, 2:00. Have to stream it on CFL Plus because it's not going to be on any TSN channels. Realistically, what do you guys want to see from the Riders in this game?
Besides our offensive line being completely bubble wrapped, that is priority number 1 for me. Coming out of that game healthy with the guys that you expect to be on the roster come week 1, that is priority number 1. We know the starters in a lot of positions across the board. We can't afford to continue to lose those quality guys. So to me, that's what I'm looking for is health and safety. So thank you to the CFL for all the new rules for health and safety because we need them.
Well, the good news is this game's in Winnipeg, so chances are it's going to be a lot of the second stringers or the guys on the bubble anyways. It's not going to be shouldn't be a lot of guys that are in that starting spot unless they get like a series in and that's it. So you're going to see a lot of Jake Mayer. You're going to see a lot of the running back competition. You're going to see a lot of offensive linemen rotated in and out because they got to figure out that rotation going into the season. So realistically, I want to see what are these wide receivers look like. Yeah, they're not going to be probably catching many, if any, balls from Trevor Harris, but I'm very curious to see who these next American receivers are. I'm curious to see what Jake Cohn is, or Jack Cohn, sorry, it looks like. Because according when I was on the Sports Case last week, Luke was really pumping the tires on Jack Cohn, saying he looks just as good, if not, he's catching up to, I guess, Jake Mayer is the way he was putting it. Like he doesn't look like he's a pure rookie anymore. So for the guys that last year like we were saying that it seems like they really like Cohn. Sounds like he might be someone to watch in the next couple of seasons.
Just to elaborate a little bit more on Cohn here, what I want to see from him specifically is quick decision making.
Yep.
Just how he can evolve from that one game that we saw last year, which was essentially a preseason game to end the regular season last year. So how can he take that next step and start reading defenses, even though it's going to be a vanilla defense from Winnipeg, but how quickly can you make that first read, that second read? How quickly can you get to that third read? And with that ties in with the offensive line. Are they going to be able to give them time to get to the reads? But speaking of keeping everybody healthy and keeping the quarterback upright, I'm actually really looking at the backup running back battle. Mario Anderson, Trent Penix. And it's not who can run the ball better, because if a hole's created, these guys are so good that generally speaking, they're all going to get the same amount of yards running through that hole, give or take, right? Like you can kind of expect what you're going to expect. Pass protection. I think that's what's going to get a guy on this roster for a running back who can pick up the blitz. So that's what I'm looking for is the running back who can pick up that blitz, who can see what's going on, then maybe just kind of leak out into the backfield for a swing pass or something, but protect the quarterback. And that includes the running back. So I'm going to be watching for that.
For me, the one thing I'm looking forward to in actuality, besides the player safety, is the defensive backfield as a whole. There are 2 open positions there, plus a question mark at safety at this point that
Isn't
they
it
really
question
need
mark
to look
anymore.
at.
I don't think it's question mark.
I still think it is. I don't know that Lacombo is the guy. I want him to be. I hope he's evolved, his evolution has continued this offseason, and he's trending towards being that clear number 1, but I don't see it. I think if they go into the season with him as the number 1 guy, that's not necessarily the best thing. That means nobody's pushing behind him. And I hope one of those guys, you're looking at my God, the names are slipping.
Dulkey, Jackson Ford.
Ford was the one I was thinking of. But your Dalkeys, your Fords, they need to show that they belong here and that they can take that spot back away from Lacombo, if nothing else, because we may need Lacombo out at defensive back in case of injury too. So it's not just that number 1 spot, but that backup guy may need to step in if Tavon Campbell gets hurt and they need to slide Lacombo out, because he'd be the first one you look at to slide out to defensive back because he's played it before. So there's question marks to me there.
Now, I'll challenge you on something here, Steve. With you saying that there is kind of 2 spots open, cornerback being the other one, I assume that you're talking about, with Tavon Campbell. With the way that the ratio is shaking out, do you really think that Tavon Campbell isn't a day 1 starter?
No, I think the plan is absolutely for him to go in as the starter. And I think they are planning for that, but he's also hasn't played a CFL game in years. So I want to see that he still has what it takes to be the number 1 guy. It's not that I think, I'm pretty sure Lacombo is penciled in as the number 1 guy at safety. And I'm positive Tavon Campbell is penciled in as the number 1 guy at corner. But the question is, do they belong there? And we don't know that. We haven't seen Tavon Campbell with live fire for quite some time.
And I do get that concern. And I've seen a lot of people, like especially on Rider fans, saying the same thing, that Tavon Campbell's spot isn't a given. But I think, especially now with the injuries on the offensive line and the need to play 3 American offensive linemen, you're going to have to play 2 Canadian defensive backs, unless you're going to get AJ Allen as a linebacker starting, which means you don't have CJ Avery out there all the time. That is an option as well too. But I just think the way that the roster makeup is, that it's going to take something very serious for Tavon Campbell, who's making a lot of money for a guy who hasn't played in the CFL in a while, to not be starting at corner.
He will not have a short leash. There's no question there. He will be given every single opportunity to get a stranglehold on that position. But I just want to see that he deserves it.
But it's a very, very fair question to ask, because he hasn't played a lot of meaningful football in years. It's been 2022 was the last time he played more than, a game in the NFL. So it's been a few years, right? So it's a very fair concern. I saw this with the Calgary Stampeders picking up their preseason win over BC on Victoria Day Monday. And this was us a couple years ago, because the Riders sucked in the preseason. And as much as wins don't matter, it's always kind of nice to see your team win, even if it is preseason. Do you guys care if the Riders win this game or not?
Only because
not even a little bit.
That's the problem with playing Winnipeg twice in the preseason. I want to win both games, because I know for a fact I'm getting text messages from my dad if the Riders lose. even if it's a meaningless game. No, preseason means nothing. We know that. We've talked about our losing streak for years. We were like we won one in the last how many years, or did we win both last year? I can't remember anymore.
Won both last year, yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first time in forever that's happened. And before that, we had like one win in like 10 years, it seemed. So it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You want these games to see what your team looks like and the guys that you brought in are good enough to play. That's all this is about.
See, I thought last year mattered a little bit more to win just because you're bringing in a brand new coach, brand new players, brand new regime, brand new culture, right? And set the standard right off the bat. We play to win. Doesn't matter who's on the field for us. We're going to try and win. And not saying that teams don't try to win the preseason because that's not how it works, but they're always trying their best. But when you look at a team like Calgary, it was important for them to win, just that psyche. Now, with the Riders playing Winnipeg in these preseason games, and that's the team that eliminated you, that's the team that kicked the crap out of you in the West Final last year, the team that you're probably going to run into in the playoffs at some point this year to get to the Grey Cup, does it just a little bit matter now? You want to prove to them, especially in their own barn, we can come in here and beat you because we haven't gone into Winnipeg and won in quite a few years now. Even in preseason, just a little bit doesn't matter.
Not even in the slightest. When that clock hits 0, if we leave that stadium and everybody's healthy and we got a good look at some of these new guys, that's all you need. Will it feel nice to walk away with a win? Sure. Will I care if they lose? No.
How many DX gifts is Steve going to post when we win this game?
6.
All of them.
Well, Riders, Bombers, this upcoming Saturday, 2:00. We'll be talking about that game. Who stood out? Who deserves to get the big giant scissor treatment? The dinner on Delta, I think they call it. Who deserves that? We'll be talking about that all next week here on the Piffles podcast. But that'll do it for us this week here. Piffles podcast brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. Special thanks, of course, go to Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty, Churchill Brewing Company, District 306, Regina's Tactical Laser Tag Experience, and Bigfoot Vodka for their support making the show possible. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching on SaskTel Max TV on demand or on YouTube. And if you're going to the Riders season ticket holder event, we'll see you there. This is Ghost Behind Your Mind.
Thank you for being such a big supporter and fan of the CFL and myself personally.